who it is that Rock Nation has elected to be performers. You've had Jennifer Lopez, you've had Shakira, you've had Snoop and Dre, you've had Kendrick Lamar, you've had Usher, you now have Bad Bunny. So all of the individuals that Rock Nation have brought on are either black or brown. So it's representing America in terms of our culture and allowing our culture to take center stage at the most wildly anticipated event of the year. Welcome to another edition of I Take Your Point podcast. I am John Dunson, joined by my mean co-host, Miss Lynn. I have no idea what she has on her face, so I'm not going to even ask. Thank you again for taking the time to spend some time with us. If you have not, please subscribe to our podcast, then like, listen, and share. Comments are always appreciated. So if you be so kind, just put your comments in the comment section of the episode. In addition, language about the episode so you can find in the description. Ms. Lynn, how are you doing today?
Doing well, John. Thank you for asking.
What do you have on your face?
Food.
That wouldn't surprise me. A lot going on this week with respect to the immigration topic. We've had a couple of big stories that are percolating with that. And so let's start and jump right in. One of the stories that caught my attention this week was the story of Bad Bunny and his selection for this year's Super Bowl. The Super Bowl in and of itself, for those of you who are in North America, knows that it is a American phenomenon that's spreading across the world right now. I think the NFL plays 7 or 8 games across the pond. I believe Ireland, England, and a couple other nations are hosting NFL games. So the NFL has become a global brand. And so the selection of Bad Bunny in some ways is laughable to how it is, not laughable from the standpoint of what it is that the NFL is doing, because they're all about the brand and building the business. But it also sparked a huge outcry from the MAGA folk and what it is that they felt with respect to Bad Bunny being selected to perform at what they consider to be their greatest event in America. And so what say you about that, Ms. Lynn?
So I was reading this article, and one of the things that I thought was super interesting in the article was when you talk about MAGA, that one of the things they said was someone that said, and they tweeted out and said, he's been very critical of this administration. And my reaction was, and we live in America. That's one of the freedoms that we have. We can be critical of this administration. So you want them to remove him from the halftime performance because he's been critical of this administration. That's your only concern.
I think they have a couple of concerns.
Well, that was the concern that I looked at online that jumped out at me. I was like, okay. So that, again, that's part of being an American.
Yeah, I think the big thing was that he is known as, they call him the shit show hater. He is anti-ICE, which is the immigration part that I want to focus on. So Bad Bunny, for those who are not familiar with him, he is a global icon with respect to the Latino community in terms of entertainment. Bad Bunny is an individual who has made his bones speaking and representing and loving his culture. He's made his bones by being very political in a lot of the things that he says. He has come out against some of the policies from this administration. And so from that standpoint, he is one that would be anti the shit show. And I think for them, the NFL selecting someone like him was like a poke in their eye to say, how dare you select this guy who is from Puerto Rico, who we really don't consider a U.S. citizen, even though Puerto Rico is literally part of the United States in terms of the territory. How dare you select this guy who is anti-ICE, anti the shit show, to sing his songs, which are really not in English, a majority in Spanish. And we can't really understand what it is that he's saying most of the time when he's speaking or singing. So why are you making me feel uncomfortable and subjecting me to this during one of the most spirited and most watched events in the United States, if not the world? I think that's a part of what they have an issue.
I think it's interesting that just one part that you said about him speaking in Spanish and us not being able to understand. I can say that a lot of music, I have no idea what they're saying. It's more about the feel, the music, the beat, the vibe, in most cases that people aren't trying to listen to or interpret the lyrics. Another thing I was thinking about the NFL that I thought was interesting is last year they had Kendrick Lamar, and that was controversial. Prior to this, we've had this relationship with the NFL. And I will tell you, as a football fan, I would have a little notebook and write down first, second, third string. What do they do? What are their stats? Like, insane. But after their controversy with the kneeling and things, I broke up with the NFL for a long period of time because of the stance that they took. And the controversy around that just really made me back away from the NFL. I think it's interesting in the last couple of halftime shows, the people that they did select, because Kendrick Lamar was, like I said, very controversial last year, and now with Bad Bunny. What do you think about that? Or are they sending a message, and who are they sending it to, and why?
That's a good point. Well, the NFL halftime show, I think, jumped a shark several years ago when some of the acts they were selecting to do the halftime show were trash. And what ended up happening was Jay-Z's Rock Nation ended up taking over the selection of the entertainment for the halftime show. One of the things that did was it brought a lot of the culture back to the halftime show. Since then, you can see the selection. It started up with Jennifer Lopez. Back in maybe 2000, 2001. Bad Bunny was a part of Jennifer Lopez's halftime show. And so what Rock Nation did was they made a conscious effort to make certain that the representation of the performers looked like the players. And by that meaning that you had more diversity because of, I think we had like the Eagles. And I love the Eagles, but we had a sleeper halftime performance. That said, I think the Bad Bunny selection in some ways was Jay-Z, if not by extension the NFL, saying we need to own our shit with respect to the irony and the hypocrisy of what we consider to be an American tradition. Who gets to define what it means to be American? Are you saying that only Brooks and Dunn or only someone who looks a certain way can be the only individuals who perform at a halftime show?
Well, what I'm saying, John, is that, okay, Roger Goodell is still the commissioner. He was the commissioner during all the controversy. I'm trying to understand what was the impetus, what happened, because we all know it's always about money. Everything, no one has morals. It's all about that financial dollar. It's just curious to me, the decisions that they made. I mean, if you think about it, you talked about this last week, that we like to watch football and, the big, strong men, and a lot of them are black men that we watch. That was still the case during the kneeling, and they doubled down there. We don't care. But now all of a sudden, I'm hearing you say that they care. Like, why?
I think that the NFL is a business.
Of course.
And the NFL understands the individuals who are playing the game. They also understand the individuals who are watching the game. So in some ways, they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, which is, I guess, what you do with cake. By that meaning that the NFL made a strategic partnership to say, we're going to bring on Rock Nation to help us solidify the black base or solidify the culture in terms of the Latino or black or brown base. At the same time, we understand that the individuals who we do business with, these corporations, they may not feel comfortable with the kneeling and the Black Lives Matters and all that stuff. We're going to still take their money because I believe that most of the owners of the NFL are pretty Republican and pretty pro-business. But what they understand is in order for us to this global brand, we may have to give up a little something. And by something meaning, I don't care if Bad Bunny is the performer of the halftime show, because what that means is he's bringing in 300 million eyeballs, which means that he's making me money. So him making me money trumps my racism.
Right. So I understand that. I guess people, they thought there's enough distance between Kaepernick and everything that happened with that now they can make this strategic business decision, right? It's been how many years? 8 years since that happened. And so they're like, okay, well, people have probably gone past that, which, hey, we know as Americans, we have a short attention span. Maybe we have. And so now we can make a different decision. I just think it's interesting because it's the same leadership. It's the same administration from the first time, but now we're going to make these strategic decisions, which it's always been about money. And the same people that watch the NFL were the same people that were watching it when Colin Kaepernick was kneeling, and you were like, kneel, and that will be the end of you.
I think a couple of things happened. I think you had Black Lives Matter happen during that time. I think the other thing that happened, and my time could be off, I think the other thing that happened was because they turned over the halftime show to Rock Nation. I don't know what the agreement is where Rock Nation has carte blanche to select whomever they want to, to be the performers and how much of a veto power the NFL owners have to say, okay, we're not comfortable with this person performing. I don't think that Rock Nation would agree to that. I think they would say, we're not going to do anything to damage the brand. At the same time, I think they understand that from an artistic standpoint, white America did not have a problem with Kendrick Lamar initially because they felt that Kendrick Lamar was going to toe the company line and not say anything to offend middle America.
So he didn't do that. And so then you made the decision to now bring Bad Bunny, who has been extremely vocal, and you think that he's going to toe the line now? I'm confused.
I think Kendrick Lamar did punch them in the mouth
Yes.
with his performance. From that standpoint, it was, okay, maybe we miscalculated here. That said, we do have this agreement with Rock Nation, and I don't know how much, again, veto power they have. I mean, obviously they can do whatever they want to because they're billionaires. I don't know how much veto power they had with respect to when Rock Nation went to the NFL committee and said, hey, we're going to not only double down on what it is that Kendrick Lamar did, but guess what? You got immigration issues going on. We're going to select the most iconic Latino person who has spoken out many times about America's policies with respect to Puerto Rico. You know, he was at the forefront when it came to the treatment of Puerto Rico with Hurricane Maria and all those things that were happening to Puerto Rico. And so he's been anti-ICE a long time.
Right.
And so it is surprising to the degree that they did not go, are you sure you want to select this guy?
I think it's even interesting that the NFL decided to do a contract with Rock Nation. And say what you want to say about Jay-Z. I think he is one of the most talented, brilliant business people in the music industry. I have a lot of respect for him. So I would love to see that contract. Love it.
It's a great contract, obviously. I think the thing with Rock Nation is, and this is, you know, Jay-Z is very smart from the standpoint that he's in the room, but at the same time, he's trying to he's trying to play both sides too. Let's be honest. He's taking that check. At the same time, he's saying, I'm still a part of the culture, right, and a part of the culture that needs to be heard. From that standpoint, you know, I'm not going to be so hard on Roger Goodell because I know that, yes, he represents the man or he represents the ownership. But at the same time, it does take something to say, okay, guys, we got to sit here and let them have their moment. And all I need for you to think about is the millions and millions and millions of dollars that these guys are bringing us. So from that standpoint, I think the owners are okay with it.
Really, I don't want to get too far into that, but that was another reason why I had to take a break from football. It really just brought home to me that idea of owning the ownership. And I can say that with the Dallas Cowboys, the owner, I was like, that one. It just made me feel like there was this ownership, and whatever we can do to exploit these people, we'll do it as long as we get the money out of it. And so that makes sense to me, because otherwise I'm like, if you think that Kendrick Lamar was something, I can't wait until February the 8th, 2026.
Yeah. So the thing that stands out to me with the selection of Bad Bunny and his stance on immigration in terms of ICE, the administration, the shit show, has made it known that they're going to send ICE agents to the Super Bowl.
And that's another thing. This is going to sound horrible, but you know what? People don't like me anyway, so let me double down. That you're sending ICE agents to the Super Bowl. Do you know how expensive it is to go to the Super Bowl? But Lynn would love to afford it to be able to go to the Super Bowl.
No, I don't think they pay for the Super Bowl, first of all, the ICE agents. But I do think from the standpoint of them going, the thing that jumps out to me is you set the stage for a lot of chaos that has the potential to go on. And you set the stage for them profiling individuals and arresting anyone who looks un-American. From that standpoint, if you think about who it is that Rock Nation has elected to be performers, you've had Jennifer Lopez, you've had Shakira, you've had Snoop and Dre, you've had Kendrick Lamar, you've had Usher, you now have Bad Bunny. So all of the individuals that Rock Nation have brought on are either black or brown. You know, so it's representing America in terms of our culture and allowing our culture to take center stage at the most wildly anticipated event of the year. The thing that I think jumps out for middle America, by middle America, I mean in Des Moines, Iowa specifically, is they have a problem with our version of American culture defining America. Because for them, the issue is not that Bad Bunny is Latino. The issue is that Bad Bunny is Latino and speaks and sings the majority of his songs in Spanish, and he's not assimilating to them. He's making them feel uncomfortable.
But audience, feel free to drop your comments, which I'm sure you will. We don't have an official language in America. And
Yeah,
so, what is it? It's white. That's a language.
Jim Bob and Ramon would say is white.
But that's not a language. Just like red is not a flavor of Kool-Aid. Just so you know.
The hell is not. It is. It is to the black community. It's red.
What do you want? So it's we don't have an official language. I think that it's so interesting, and there's so much hubris in America that people have to assimilate to someone else's idea of what America is. And when you think about when America was formed, it was to get away from those restrictions and the oppression of England. And so it's like, okay, so now we're going to come over here and we're going to do the same thing. Not to get off on too much of the tangent, but always this whole ecosystem, this whole, like, I'm going to break away from this, and then I'm going to create the exact same thing. Lord of the Flies. Like, okay, we're here, but your basic instinct is to do the exact same thing. Someone has to be in power and someone has to be powered over. That literally didn't make any sense, but you know what I'm talking about.
You said something a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Gen Z, specifically when we were talking about these white males who are feeling that something is being taken away from them.
Yes.
I think what they're talking about is what you just said, that they get to define what America is and who America is. They are the ones who set the standard. And how dare you come in here in my house, in my Super Bowl, when I'm trying to watch a Doritos commercial and I have to read subtitles to understand what it is that you're saying so I can find out whether or not I can be offended by what it is that you're saying.
That's a really good point, John. And I will say that for me, living in Texas, even though I grew up in Southern California and, I took Spanish all the way up until my senior year in college, I remember being in the store and all the announcements were in Spanish. And I was like, what? And so I had to readjust my brain, like, what are they talking about? But I thought it was interesting that everything was in Spanish. And it was a little jarring at first, but then I had to check myself. When I go to another country, I don't expect, even though they can, because they are more educated than we are, they can speak English, that I expect if I go to Italy for them to respond to me in English. Why? If I go to Mexico, I want you to respond to me in English. I'm in your country, and you actually have an official language.
Here's the unspoken aspect of all of this. How dare you, Latino, come in with your culture, with your language that I can't understand, that I would need to then try to understand, is going to make me feel uncomfortable. You are telling me your history or your version of what America is. I don't care because it's not my history or my version of America. We're not only seeing that in entertainment, hell, we're seeing it in politics with respect to these raids that are going on across the country. We talked about the fact that Bad Bunny was a huge opponent against ICE. And just today in the news, we have the governor of Illinois talking about these raids that are happening in the city of Chicago, where the shit show is sending in militarized federal agents, the ICE agents, to go in and ransack these communities that are just trying to live their lives. So the question becomes, who gets to define what America is and who gets to define either who stays or goes? What say you about what we're seeing in the political arena with respect to these immigration raids?
I think that, okay, the first thing that I'm concerned about is that they're not getting paid. Like, I have a big problem with that they're not getting paid. And then you're saying, well, you will get paid eventually. Well, my kids need to eat today. My mortgage needs to be paid today. And
And
you're
to be
asking the military to still go in and have deployment in these cities, but they're saying you may not get paid because of the government shutdown. And of course, the soldier is not going to question it, but I'm not a soldier, so I'm going to question it. You are asking me to go do something where I don't even understand the throughput. I don't understand what's the purpose of deploying the military inside our country to go look for people that were here illegal.
So I will say the purpose, there are a couple of purposes. One is, again, I will tell you that I am law and I am order. And by me being a white cis male and me thinking that this company was developed and designed for me and for my benefit, the fact that you're coming in here and the fact that you may have been doing something non-illegal, I don't care about all that. You're still a brown person who's here illegal. And you're taking jobs away from these black folk.
Hey, thank you. Oh my God, John. Thank you for saying it. I was getting ready to say they don't want those jobs, but yes, I want to allocate those jobs to black people so that all black people can have a job.
I mean, you're taking black jobs.
Yes, I said I was going to create these black jobs, and now you're taking a brownie.
You're taking. Look at you. You're taking these.
That was
jobs.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing that one. That was good.
He said it. He said it during the campaign. You're taking these black jobs.
Yes.
So,
wow.
I'm protecting my black people. So the fact that you are here illegally, taking these black jobs, black people can be picking cotton,
yes,
fucking corn, and working in these fields as laborers
and making tortillas. I guess I don't even know how, but okay.
You could be doing that. I'm protecting these black who can't speak for themselves because I'm a friend of the blacks. That's what he has said.
Yes.
And so from that standpoint, that aspect is what it is. The other thing, the more sinister aspect is because he likes power, because he sees this as a way for him to continue to be in power. It would not shock me if he does not use this to try to create some type of martial law where he can say, guys, I need to stay in office for as long as I can, as long as we have this craziness going on in Chicago or Memphis or LA or Portland. And I mean, I'm the only one. I'm the only one that can fix that.
I don't necessarily know if that's going to be the argument. And I had some friends that said that, they could see him doing a third term. And I was like, yeah, I don't see this. However, this is what the scenario that I can see and I can entertain. It just it extends out what you're saying, that if you do this during an election and you create chaos during an election, we can't hold the election. And so then he can potentially stay in office. Saying the fear aspect, and it's the same thing you said last time, the them versus us. I don't think that's going to play out. And maybe I'm being optimistic or whatever, or naive, but I just don't think that argument is going to do it. It has to be something that's so violent and chaotic that people are distracted and they're looking at something else where he can then manipulate the Constitution so he could stay in. There's just too much for him to have to do in order to do that. I know he would love it. Like, he just wants to be a dictator. That's great. Like, who doesn't want to do it?
So a couple things, because what we're seeing is not new. And so we got to own our history here. Obama was known as deporter-in-chief.
He was known as what?
The deporter-in-chief. He deported a lot.
That's what I was going to say. People keep forgetting that Obama deported more people than anybody else. Like, nope. But I'm going to get to that. I have thoughts on that.
And so we go back to Obama. Before Obama, we had President Eisenhower, who had this thing called Operation Wetback.
Oh, that.
And that, it really called Wetback. And that was a campaign similar to this, where they use military-style tactics to go and round up roughly 2 million Mexicans and send them back. Okay. So we had that during Eisenhower. Then we can go back further and we can think about the internment camps with the Japanese and how it is that, we use that Red Scare to round up all these Japanese and send them back or put them in internment camps. So America, to be fair, America does have a history of doing this. And what the shit show is trying to do, he's trying to, and it came out, I believe today, Stephen Miller, who said that what ultimately they're trying to do and think about doing is implementing, and you'd ask what the end goal was. I think the end goal is to talk about and implement what we call the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. And that would allow them to do some of the stuff that they're doing. What say you?
This is what I see. We don't want to solve the problem. Just like we never wanted to solve health care. Republicans didn't want to solve it. Democrats didn't want to solve it. They don't want to solve immigration either. You know why? Because I can fundraise against it. I can create that fear. I can distract, and I can use that as a tool to do what I need. We never want to fix it. Collective, we never want to fix it, because if the smartest people, allegedly, are in office, you would fix this. You don't want to, because you need something in order to advance your causes. And immigration is fantastic. We've been doing it for decades.
Yeah, I take your point there. I do believe that in some ways, Republicans and Democrats have used aspects of immigration pro and con. The thing that jumped out to me in reading about where we are right now is you think about the amount of money that is being shifted over to ICE, and ICE is receiving a shit ton of funding, and they are out here recruiting individuals to be ICE agents. I've always felt that at some particular point behind the mask of an ICE agent, there resides, I would hope, a human being that cares about something. And so one of the things that I'm fascinated about is if you're an ICE agent, and let's say that your cousin or a family member of someone you grew up with is on the receiving end of some of this, how does that make you feel? Because you have to live in at least some of these communities that are being impacted.
I'm sure they feel just fine and dandy. Our first lady, she is of Hispanic descent. She don't give a shit.
Who?
First lady here in Texas.
Yeah. You're talking about your best friend, Melania Trump.
Could you imagine? He wakes up. It's like on the Dave Chappelle skit. He's Hispanic. He's blind. She starts speaking Spanish. He has a nervous breakdown. No, John. I'm talking about the first lady in the state of Texas, that she is Hispanic, and our governor has some very restrictive laws. And so I think that it's the same. I don't know if I could say this or not, but I'm going to say it anyway. I remember I was in the gym and I was talking to just one of my friends in the gym. We talk politics, we do a whole bunch of things. And I said that I admired the Latino community for the sense of family, for the sense of just tradition. I just love the way they take care of their families and how important that is. And then he said, until they become white. And I said, okay. And so when you are accepted to assimilate, then it becomes even in the culture of them versus us. So I don't think they have any problem with it at all.
Yeah, a couple of meaty points here, though, I want to give you kudos for. The first one was you talking about the Latino community and how it is that they're going about their day-to-day lives and how they tend to take care of one another. And the amazing thing is that what this does to that community, it does create this climate of fear. I think I shared with you a couple months ago. We had a family that cleaned our house who was from Brazil. And when it came time for the election and it was trending that the shit show was going to win, they just disappeared.
Left you with a dirty house. Left you with dust bunnies under the bed.
Shit, okay. So I use all that as a data point to say that there's this climate of fear that has happened over the last 6, 7, 8, 9 months with respect to this administration. And individuals either self-deporting or individuals being deported that has caused angst and consternation across many different communities and many different industries. The other thing that is in the back of my mind about all of this, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. The Latino community in the last election didn't necessarily vote for the black lady. And so a lot of them, like you said, because they felt that they could assimilate, a lot of them voted for the shit show. Let's be honest, you got a lot of black folks standing around going, we tried to tell y'all that they were going to come for you.
I will say this, and it's going to be controversial, that I also struggle with it. Because you talked about, we're going to talk about immigration, and I thought, I don't care. I don't care to the point where I want to take energy away from schools that are getting rid of special services. I don't care when I have to take energy away from can't go to Whole Foods every day because groceries are outrageous. I don't care from the fact that I have to take energy away from anything that is close to me. And the reason why I don't care is because They didn't care. And why in the world would I take energy away from something and put it into a cause that you don't care about? So I like to pitch ideas to my son for like, little, hey, when you become famous, I want you to do this show. And so one of the ideas, screenplays I had for him was that he would have this show with a white lady that's woke. And she's always championing Black causes. Like she's in HR constantly. But the Black people don't give a shit. Like she's like, oh my gosh, somebody looked at her hair and she had braids. And she's like, I don't care. But the problem was in my little screenplay that the main character, the woke white lady, had a racist dog. And the dog is always trying to bite Black people. So she's trying to hide the fact that she has this racist dog, so she's taking them to therapy. So deal with your own shit. Why in the world would I care if you don't care?
So a couple of points. The point about Latinos voting for the shit show, I get that there are a lot of Black folk who don't care. I will say this. Black folk who couldn't care less in some aspect.
It's not that we don't care, and I should clarify that. Okay, maybe it is that I don't care. I don't want to spend my energy on something that you did not spend your energy on.
Because you felt that you would benefit from it because guess what? Regardless of whatever happens, you weren't Black.
I'm sorry, what?
Because you felt as a Latino, regardless of whatever happened, you weren't Black.
Because I'm white. I just told you that. I care until I become white.
Right. And so I think from that standpoint, I take your point and appreciate what you're saying, that there are a lot of Latinos who did fall into that. We're one of the good ones. We're one of the good Browns that could someday become, obviously you have a freaking Cubans who think like that.
What happened to Steven on Django Unchained? He was one of the good ones too.
Well, if we talk about Latinos, Steven is not Latino. You have the Cubans, you have Dominicans who tend to think like that, Venezuelans, hell, even some Koreans or Vietnamese who may start to think that way. That said, one of the things that also jumped out for me when I was thinking about this was the Latino population is right now the largest subgroup, I think at almost 20%. And so if you are Bobby from Des Moines, and you're going, there are too many freaking Latinos here. We need to deport some of them because we don't want them having these anchor babies.
Wow. Okay. So it's like the deer in Texas. Let's thin them out. It's too many. They're eating my grass.
Folks like Stephen Miller are thinking like this. There are too many Latinos here. And they love to have babies. So right now they're just having babies and popping them out. And next thing you know, they're going to overtake us and we're going to be the minority. And we're all going to be speaking Spanish and singing Bad Bunny.
I think that there is something to be said about that. But if you look at the decline in the birth rate, especially like you were saying in Gen Z, they're just like, I don't know about that. There's a decline in the birth rate, and there's a decline in the birth rate for educated white people. And that if you do have a culture that's maybe Catholic and you're like, that's just part of your culture, you just have lots of babies. I can understand that. I think that's a conversation that
Project
is worth
2025.
exploring. Sorry?
Project 2025. Think about it. You got too many brown people here having babies. Got too many white women deciding that they're not going to be having our kids. So what are we going to do? We're going to get rid of the brown people. We're going to stop the abortions from happening. And we're going to start prosecuting individuals who have abortion. We're going to make you have my baby.
Yes. And then we're not going to help you take care of it. But you got all these babies. Good job.
I take your point and understand your point about Black people not caring about immigration and ICE raids when it pertains to brown folk. But the flip side of that is you do have situations like happened in Chicago that happen where they're rounding up individuals that aren't quote unquote Latino or look Latino. They are Black. And you have the unfortunate incident about Dr. Roberts in Des Moines Public Schools. And this is a fascinating story.
So fascinating.
Because this brother was the superintendent of Des Moines. And apparently he lied on his resume, which obviously a lot of people do. The thing that jumped out to me was he has been considered a stellar educator and leader of Des Moines Public Schools. And so apparently he was here illegally and got vetted by the individuals who vet you to become leadership in the district. And they ended up arresting him a couple weeks ago and deporting or trying to deport him. And all of this now is coming out that he is from, Guyana and not really an American citizen.
Did they take Obama as well?
He lied about a couple aspects on his resume, and they got him on gun possession charges. But the interesting thing is, and it happened, and I thought about it, and I was like, okay, all right. But this brother is doing good work in the school system. He's not out here breaking the law. At least, he is breaking the law if he's here illegally. But he's not out here committing a heinous crime. His only crime is, obviously, he was here illegally, based on the reports that we have. What say you?
Well, when I first heard it, I was very intrigued. So, of course, I was consuming everything. Oh, what's this? And read through it. And I read this New York Times article, and the headline was, Superintendent's bio seemed too good to be true. That's your headline? And then it went on to talk about that he was a liar, he lied. And I'm reading, trying to get to the point, what did he lie about? Like, I'm really trying to understand what it was. So they talked about a few things that he did. I think that gun charges were actually dropped and some other things that he had, maybe possession or something. But it came down to lying on the resume, which, like you said, lots of people lie on their resume. And that's part of the vetting to catch all of that. But what I felt that article did, and a lot of the things that I read, was it took up a lot of space to dehumanize and demonize this person. So that when you finally got to the crux of the matter, you've already formed an opinion that this is a bad person, that they deserve everything that they get, because you front loaded it with images and words to make him less than. So I thought that was interesting. And then the second thing is what I talked about earlier, is that this just highlights the fact that nobody wants to fix immigration, because you have a person that's accomplished, and he was doing really great things in Des Moines. So the reading scores, getting brown and black kids engaged in the curriculum, like they were really struggling, and he did an amazing job at turning that around. A lot of people were advocates for him when this happened, and so they were protesting. But then, like I said, they started reading these articles that really took a lot of pains in trying to make him a demon, to make him less human. And then those people also turned on him. So we as a nation, we always need someone or a group of someones to blame, to hate, to whatever. It always helps the administration, because then they can go off and do whatever they need to do under the guise and the cover of, we're protecting you from a superintendent in Des Moines that's teaching kids to read. You see how bad he is with his books.
Yeah, the irony of that situation is he lied on his resume. It's not like he wasn't qualified to do the job.
Well, sure. And so, again, we can look at our administration. Let's look at their resume. If I looked at your resume and I didn't look at any nepotism or anything like that, not too sure that you would have this job. Not saying that you should lie on your resume. I am not a fan of that. Because I always think that it's going to come out anyway. So, select the person that you think is going to be best and put your best foot forward, whatever. But I'm saying that in terms of lying on the resume, okay, people embellish.
I think that there is irony in the fact that clearly he pissed someone off in this district.
Well, I mean, because otherwise, what was he in there for 2 years? So, and that's the thing that it's so funny, because you do have to walk a line. Like, I ran for school board, and it's a different world in that environment. And, you're working with parents, you're working with staff, you're working with other school board members, and it's like a little Peyton Place in there. You make the wrong person mad, and they're going to dig until they can find something. And it's interesting that he didn't think that this would ever happen, but I guess because he rose up in the ranks, that it was something that wasn't on his radar. Another thing I read in there, which I thought was interesting, is that he'd married an American and had attempted to get his green card, and it was denied. And I thought that was interesting. It's like, why was it denied? Because people marry Americans and they don't even love them, and they're able to obtain American or U.S. status. I thought that was interesting. But we're only reading a flat file. We're not reading like all of the information. We're getting one person or a group of people's perspective. We don't know everything. All I do know is that no one wants to fix immigration. This is a great case that shows that it just doesn't affect brown people. Black people are also impacted by this, and that they're not criminals, rapists, whatever. I lied on a resume. Okay, so I don't know if I go to maximum security over that.
I mean, he may be going to maximum security.
You may be going to maximum security. Children, let that be a lesson. Always tell the truth.
The irony is that you have this leader who is leading individuals, who is, for all intents and purposes, doing a stellar job in the district. He is in Iowa, so there's not a lot of black people in Des Moines. The fact that he clearly pissed someone off, and they, as you said, the article, by the time you got to the crux of what it is, that the real reporting of what he had done was shared, he might as well have been, a rapist who had killed 12 people who were now serving as superintendent.
Well, that's what I was waiting for. I was waiting to read that because, like I said, they front loaded it with all of these adjectives, with all this anticipation, with all of this drama that I was like, wow, that's it. I mean, not that it's good, but what a letdown.
So the question that I have is, who do we decide to prosecute and treat as criminals versus who do we decide to look the other way on? Because you have, quote unquote, bad immigrants and you have good immigrants. Hell, we have the First Lady of the United States that's a, quote unquote, good immigrant. And she has very little accomplishment other than she was a Playboy or penthouse model. And she married and had.
I mean, she's got, again, great fashion. She does. She's got some nice clothes.
Hold on. And then you have someone like Hegseth, who is leading the Department of Defense, who's clearly not qualified for that. Argument can be made that he is more qualified or was more qualified for his job, as you said, than the individuals who are leading certain divisions or departments for this administration. And so what is his sin? Is his sin coming here illegally, or is his sin thinking that he could do what it is that they have been doing?
Both, because I don't give a pass. If there is a pathway, which there isn't, if there's a pathway to citizenship, that you should explore that. Again, I talked about this before. I don't believe in just coming over here willy-nilly. I do believe that there are processes that you should, if you can, take advantage of. So I'm not giving him a pass over that. But I also think that it was the fact that he's trying to be a superintendent of this school. He's turned around their test scores. How dare. So I can't wait to find out which woman it was that turned him in. I know it was a woman. Because we're some shifty little bitches sometimes.
Immigration is a hot topic and a hot button issue, and it covers different segments and facets of the population, covers us in the field of politics, entertainment, and culture. And I say all that to say, once you pull that strand, so intertwined with everything that is America, that you never know who's going to be sucked into that conversation. And so for that, Miss Lynn, what do you have planned for this week?
I don't have a lot planned. I had a excellent day yesterday. I got to connect with a old friend and we went to a play, and so I had a best day yesterday, and I'm hoping it extends to the week. Just kind of, I forgot I gotta go to Little Rock. Darn it, the worst airport in all the land.
Maybe you'll see Bill Clinton.
I do. As soon as you get off the plane, there's this huge cutoff of him and Hillary, and if I were them, I would have said, take my name off of this raggedy ass airport. It's worse than LaGuardia was before it got remodeled, and they used to have pigeons walking around. It's terrible. It's filthy. Do something. So I said I'm going to do that, and then I have some other things that I'm going to work on. I have the house to myself, which I love that. So I like to go to everybody's room and sleep in their bed like I'm the Black Goldilocks. Like take a nap in everybody's room. So my mom's room, my boy's room, take a little nap in there. That's what I'm going to do. I'll be the Black Goldilocks.
That's creepy. So creepy. Anyway, so guys, thanks again for spending time talking to us. We truly enjoyed having a conversation with you. Immigration, again, is a hot topic. It's not something that should be taken lightly. There are individuals who are here illegally, and there are individuals who are here that have committed some serious crimes. And so we need to be cognizant of that, and we need to have those individuals pay for the crimes that they committed. We have individuals who are providing services to this culture that move us as a society, whether it's Bad Bunny and his performance and representing his culture, whether it's your favorite international movie star who's making quality movies for you to watch and be entertained by, or whether or not it's individuals who are doing your house cleaning or preparing your food or making certain that you're being safe with respect to your communities. America is a culture of immigrants, and none of us are more important or more valuable than others. And I think if we are being honest with ourselves, we need to have that open and honest dialogue about what's really happening. I don't think we're ready to face what's really happening in this country at this particular point. Ms. Lynn, thank you as always for allowing myself to engage with you. I know at times that can be very difficult. Guys, thank you again for spending some time with us. And as always, if you're out and about this week, make the time to do something nice for yourself. And while you're at it, take the time to do something nice for someone else. Until next time, we'll talk to you.
Thanks for tuning in to another lively conversation on I Take Your Point. This podcast is a production of the SME LLC Media Group. All rights reserved. If you are enjoying the show, hit the subscribe button in the top right corner. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and check out past episodes. Until next time, take care and be well.